natural lighting.
Sometimes it doesn't work out too well for the really white guys, but...
All right, what's up, everybody? We have a special one today. I was talking about this in the past. I've been really looking forward to this trip, and we are here. Just dropped off Ivana and the baby, so we'll see them after this. But it was Miliana's first road trip. We drove 3 hours over here to Tampa. So we are at Tampa. We are at, is this the Lions Den? Is that what this place is called? The Lions Den. So this is the gym that Joe Bennett trains out of. And you've seen a lot of his stuff here, all everything that he posts, as well as a lot of iconic pictures. I stood over in the posing spot over there, and I've seen that many times. So I'm really looking forward to training some legs with him today. So we're going to talk that, going to talk some programming, and just continuing to build off of where we are here. So this is going to be exciting 2 days, legs today, arms tomorrow. These are the two areas I'm continuing to try to bring up. And so might as well have the technician work on them and learn some new stuff today that I'm going to bring to you. So then finish it off on Saturday. We'll go to the Tampa Pro show and go see Hunter tonight a little bit too, check in with him and see how he's looking. And it's going to be a fun weekend. So the road trip is on, and it's just one of the next three. We got Denver next week, and then we got Dallas the week after. So we're going to be stringing them together here and having some fun with it while we can. So let's get this rolling now, because it's quiet in here and we got to make it loud with some grunts. So let's get after it, and we'll touch base as we go.
If you can, smash your legs a little bit more together. I know you're pretty much out of space there. There we go. Keep them like that if you can. Go 3 like that. Squeeze. 2. 1 more. Squeeze. Good. How do I start? Tip number 1. All right, guys, just the tip. Number 1 on this one. So this is a tip for especially guys Brett size. So that's like maybe 6 people watching this. Like, hey, Hunter, if you're watching Brent's stuff, make sure that your knees are lined up with the machine. And probably the easiest thing on that is make sure when you're in the start position, your knees are pointed straight towards the ceiling. And generally, the bigger you are, the more tendency is they're going to just want to roll out and knees point that way. So even for like marginally large guys, you generally have to smash your thighs together pretty well and feel like you're turning in. And literally when you got as much tissue as Brett, you might have to get to the point where it's like extremely uncomfortable and feel like you're internally rotating again, turning in, and just make sure that kneecap is pointed straight towards the ceiling. Because if you want those things over time, people get really concerned about making sure the knees lined up here, like not too far this way, not too far that way. But that's honestly not as big of a deal as where's your kneecap pointing. So when you set it up, make sure your kneecap's pointed straight towards the ceiling, and that's probably most important for like joint knee health.
Feel any difference from how you typically do them?
Just a little more focus. I feel like that comes from every session with Joe. It just makes you think about it more, especially slowing down at the top portion. Stopping at the stretch at the end of the eccentric, and controlling down through the concentric and then holding that. So just slowing down the movement, make sure you feel the full range of motion. That's huge. A lot of people just start swinging it, and so this is huge. Like, did you kind of? I guess I chose this, but have you always kind of like doing like a hamstring first when you're doing like more of like a quad focus day?
Yeah, almost always.
Yeah. That was something I picked up from John Meadows.
Yeah, John always did that. He was a big guy on that. Specifically, the only thing that I always tell everybody to do is always start with the seated leg curl. I think it's the best.
Okay.
Even more so than lying. And this is like a subtle difference, but like on a lying leg curl, if you don't, like even when you have it set up properly, like you have to use your torso muscles a lot to stabilize, right? Because like the whole time, everybody, if you're going heavy, even if your form's perfect, there's a little bit of this low back extension thing going on. So if you go with that first, you could have a little bit of fatigue through your torso, which could take away from a squat pattern a teeny bit. But if you set this up right, the reason I prefer this one over the lying, at least to start, is your pelvis and torso is completely out of it. So it's just all hamstrings. And people don't like realize like hamstrings work like this much during a squat. So that's what everyone's worried about. Like, oh, if I do hamstrings before a squat, am I going to be like weaker on a squat? And you won't at all, because like they're doing almost nothing. Like they're doing an isometric basically the whole time. Because people don't think about your hamstring crosses over your hip and your knee. So it's getting shorter when you squat here, while at the same time it's getting longer here. So again, it's technically, basically what it's doing is it's staying the same length the whole time. So your hamstring literally does almost nothing during a squat pattern. So it's, I think, one, might as well put them first, because everybody's hamstrings are shittier than their quads, like almost like all across the world. Like even at the highest level, like you almost never see a guy where it's like, his hamstrings are too big. I don't think I've ever actually seen that, a guy where I'm like, oh, this problem is his hamstrings are too big. So from like a priority standpoint, might as well put them first. And then also just from a training standpoint, it doesn't take away from squats, so why not?
Start it right.
Good. 2 more. Keep it smooth. Squeeze. Good. 1 more. Yep. All right, guys, just the tip number 2. If you watch how I'm setting up here, it's not on accident that every single time I have Brett get in, I'm pushing this down. So a big mistake that people do is they don't utilize the thigh pad enough. So they'll get in so they can comfortably basically get their leg on here, then they'll put the thigh pad down, and if you can put it down and it's not either one just smashing the crap out of your quads, it's not being used enough to provide resistance basically so your leg can't move. So the little trick or hack to do that is to push this down so you can actually have your thigh down a little bit lower. So if you have a training partner, push this part down while you put the thigh pad as tight as you can go, and then slowly let it up. And that way this is going to be as tight as it can possibly be without the actual load kind of pressing your thigh higher than you could get it if you just had your legs up there. And the other little thing you'll see as he goes with that is that's going to let him get a little bit more range of motion as well too. Because again, if this wasn't as high, this would be one, I'd probably have to set this one probably here for him to get his legs in. So I'd actually have to shorten the range of motion so he could actually get the thigh pad down. This way, when he's in the full stretch position, the stack is like barely touching. So he has load there, where a lot of people, again, if you had to put this lower to get in, you're not gonna get that fully lengthened position. So get a training partner, make him push down on this while you cinch that as tight as it'll go, and it'll keep this tighter, which again, make sure it's all hamstrings and nothing else involved, and then also making sure you got tension at the top and not like deloading that lengthened position. Like that now. You just think the track, come on. There we go. Another one like that. Just keep it smooth, pause at the top, hard squeeze. Yep, one more, come on. Not just the top, still pause right here, squeeze where it goes. Good, that's it. Pause, squeeze where it goes. Good, come on. You got 3 like that, right there. Good, 2 more, come on. Right there. 1 more, come on. Nice.
Ooh.
Nice.
Sir. Whew, these partials are nasty.
Tommy White? That was the mark. He says only 3 times. I'm gonna find it.
Okay, so like we said, we wanted to start with some leg curls there. So this is your basic. I'm seeing leg curls. He just really slowed it down for me. Made sure, biggest thing I picked up on that was mainly not just trying to throw the movement all the way to the bottom. I even think I get, a little caught up with that. I have to get all the way to the bottom and squeeze as hard as I can, but sometimes you just fling it so hard, it's just more about momentum. So with that, he made sure that I was fully contracting with the weight the entire time. It wasn't about getting as far as I could, it was just getting my contraction as far as I could without losing the weight. So it was just time under tension, felt really good. Finished off with some partials. The hamstrings are pumped. Now we move on to quads.
Have you ever done like the little sissy variation? Just your heel off the bottom, and whatever width you normally do. Okay. So whatever normally feels comfortable, don't change the width off of any of that. And then all I want you to do is don't worry about the heels. Obviously they're gonna come off because they're not even on the platform, but as you come up, take it as deep as you can. Again, let the heels come up, but just make sure you're feeling like you're keeping weight nice and even on kind of the whole part of your foot that's still on there, the whole ball of your foot. And then just make sure that knee's tracking the same place it normally was. So you have to focus a little bit more on knee tracking. But by going like that, you're gonna get way more knee flexion. So you're gonna be able to get pretty much the hamstring on the calf. And so it's gonna make it a lot more quad and a lot less glute.
It's just because and I'll see this probably for the next 5-6 more pounds.
Yep.
It's just range of motion isn't as good, so my hips might come up a little bit, which I don't want.
By putting it that low, you're gonna
It's gonna
actually
be
have
better.
less hips. Yeah.
Okay,
So
let's
that's
give it a
probably-
try.
Yeah, unlock it still.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
See the smell as far as I'm gonna go before it comes up. Is that right?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I would stop right there because I'm sure you're getting way more at your knee right now. I mean, your hamstring's pretty much on your calf.
Okay.
So you're getting great range of motion at the knee, and I wouldn't worry about forcing it past that. Just take your time.
You gonna feel yourself kind of pushing more on your big toe a little bit.
You're gonna just have to have more pressure, but I don't even feel like you got all your toes on there and everything. Yeah, let's go like 3 more. Putting the band on makes it, the machine's already heavier at the top. Now the band makes it even heavier at the top. And, but now you don't have to put as much weight on or as many plates on. And then like most bodybuilders, most male bodybuilders, like if they're heavy pressers, squatters, whatever, generally, not always, but their glutes can get too big relative to their quads. So lots of times if you can make a press variation more quad dominant and a little less hip, a little less glute dominant, can be a good thing. But if you want a big ass and you want some big glutes, this variation is not for you. His glutes are still going to be involved because this is what's called like a closed chain exercise. So his hip's still working, but this just allows for a lot more range of motion at the knee, a lot more torque at the knee for a given load. So it's just kind of making it, again, a little bit more quad dominant than like a typical leg press. Before, so just making sure you felt comfortable.
So is this all his equipment, or did you bring a lot of this in too?
I picked all of it and he paid for all of it.
Oh, okay. So you picked the equipment.
Yep.
How do the little changes feel?
Whew. So doing a little bit more of like we call this sissy squat variation, but what is just letting your knees travel more, so more flexion on your quad, or more stretching of the quads there, more flexion of the knee. But overall, just it's new, but it feels really, really good. So I'm feeling all quads. Like I said, just putting yourself in the position that you're only using quads, letting those heels travel up. Don't advise this to too many beginners because they might not be able to balance it as well, but start light on it, feel it out. And make sure you know what you're isolating, especially with the quads here.
A beginner standpoint, you'll have some people that see something this knee dominant and something in their brain just wants to say that's wrong or that's bad. They'll see something like this where their heels come up and they'll see that's wrong, that's bad, because there's some of these arbitrary things that may be grounded in some good cueing for someone. So if I was teaching a new person how to squat, especially teaching someone how to use their hips, and I've trained general population, was how I started as a trainer. It's very common that people don't know how to use their hip muscles. So you'll see them try a squat and it is this kind of on the toes thing, the hips don't know how to go back. And as a result of that, some cueing, like, all right, well, keep your weight on your heels. Make sure you push your hips back. Don't let your knees go forward. And again, if you're teaching someone how to hip squat, use their hips for the first time, a new person, all those cues make sense. All that being said, if we're trying to have more force at a given joint, which makes a lot of sense for a bodybuilder, there's nothing inherently wrong about this movement in any way, shape, or form. There's nothing that says you can't put a load through the balls of your feet. People say, oh, you can't have the heels come up. That's bad all the time. And I say, okay, well, how do you train your calves? And then people stop. Oh, shit, I put a lot of load through the ball of my foot with my heel coming up. So you're perfectly capable of loading just the ball of your foot through your ankle joint. You're perfectly capable of putting more load through your knee. People say, oh, it's bad for the knees. I was like, define bad for the knees. I'll say, oh, it's a lot of force through the knees. Like, how do I get a lot of force through my quads without a lot of force through my knees? And that's when they hear the cricket sound again. So again, this is all perfectly safe. Most importantly, if you go into it really, really, really slow. So if you used to squat or leg press on like 10 plates a side, and you go and try and do this with 10 plates a side like this, the first rep, your knees are going to explode. It's not because it's bad for your knees. It's because using a huge load that's going from 2 joints to 1 joint is probably a bad idea. So just start really, really light, taper up really slow if you've never done it before, and then it's perfectly safe and perfectly fine, just like any other exercise. But Brett's a mutant, so we're not going to start safe or slow. We're just going to ease into it for a couple of warm-up sets and then try and break it. So for a horrible set, you're going to do the first set exactly the way that we've done it. So with your feet, which is nice and controlled. I'm going to stay right here with you, so we'll take it pretty close to failure. But then when you're at the end, what I'm going to have you do is rack it, set it down. Okay. So again, you're going to literally put the racks up, set it completely down, slide your feet up so your heels are just like up, like so they're not quite what you normally would be with the leg press, but get them so they're on. And then keeping the safety on the whole time, we're going to go partials, whatever you've got.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Okay.
But keep the safety on. Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's once we'll do the straight set with the safety on, obviously all of it, all the way to full depth or whatever. Lock it, you can take your feet off for a second, slide them up a little bit, get your stance comfortable, and then just partials with whatever you got left. Your head on every end. Good. Keep that tempo, man. Keep your head on. Every rep hard. Own it. Leg extend. Hard squeeze. Pull. Hard. Keep it locked. Pull yourself down as you're tight. All right. Short. Just go. Come on, man. Go. Here we go. Keep going. Come on. Keep going. Come on. 8, 10. We got 20. Come on. Come on. Come on. 5 to go. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Woo! Woo!
Good set, man.
So good. You gotta get used to that. Like it takes like 3 or 4 on that first round.
Oh yeah.
That's what we call the sweat set.
Yep.
It's activated. I'm just glad it's 70 degrees in here.
Obviously, it's the next biggest body.
Well, it wasn't even that. It was just the tempo that I wasn't used to.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
like, so he's just like, "Are you ready?" And like, so bro, right away, T-bar rows. He goes, I go. He goes, I go.
Yeah.
I go after him.
Yeah.
By the time I get done with my set, he's already on the next. He's already
Yeah.
over on the cable fly,
Yeah.
or cable pull downs.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? He's like, take weight off, come on.
Yeah.
So I'm taking weight off, run over.
Yeah.
He stacks it.
Yeah.
He's like, so halfway through, like, I go, Branch. This was back in like 2019.
Yeah.
I go, I'll be right back. I ran to the bathroom, like, I knew I had to either puke
Yeah.
or I was gonna shit myself.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I feel like it was gonna come out one way or the other. Luckily, I just shit.
Yeah.
I ran back and he's standing there at the next exercise. Just points, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I run over. Next day, my forearms have, I didn't even feel my back.
Yeah.
My forearms have never felt so fucking sore in my life.
And I want to see if maybe that gets you a teeny bit more depth, because it's the same thing. It's like you got so much tissue, you know, especially same thing like with the leg press where you just kind of run out of room. Where I feel like if you get out here just a little bit, you let a little bit more outside of your body, you might actually end up getting a teeny bit more knee flexion. So, worth messing around with. All right, just tip number 3. When you're doing an exercise, in this case, like a squat pattern, and the goal is quads, manipulate everything else to make it the most quads. So honestly, this is one of those things, if Brett said it didn't feel good, we just would have gone back to what he was doing. But this is like, let's mess around and see if we can just get that much more and see how it feels. And again, he might even do this for today, and then like he goes back and tries the other way and it feels better, whatever, we'll stick with it. But if we're thinking, you know, quads, I'm looking at the knee. And so he's got so much tissue. Normally the end of the range of motion is kind of where hamstring touches the calves, and that's good. But I'm watching him and he has a pretty narrow stance. And so the same issue he has with leg press, he kind of runs out of the hips just because his quad is coming into his torso. So I was like, well, if we go the teeniest bit wider, will he be able to get a little bit more range at the hip, which in turn will make a little bit more range at the knee. And I said, so let's mess around with it. So that's the only adjustment we did, is we went a little bit wider. We went the toes out just a teeny bit, and then I basically had to tell him, make sure that your knee stays in line with that toe. So pushing his knees out a little bit more, and it definitely got him a little bit more depth. Definitely got him a few more degrees of quad. Is that gonna make all the difference in the world to his quads? I don't know, but maybe. They're gonna make a little bit, yeah, and he said it felt more. And then obviously just asked him how does it feel, and then we'll do some working sets just to see how it feels as well today too. So people always get, you know, I don't know where these things started with, where at some point in time there was this notion that you had to have this close stance to produce more sweep or more quad, which there's no basis in science for that whatsoever. And people were concerned, well, if I'm getting wider, is it gonna be more hips? It might be a little bit more adductor if you go a little bit wider, but it's like a little bit more adductor, arguably maybe a little less glute. But either way, if you're narrow, then it's just more, the hips are still doing something one way or the other. So if it just shifts what's working at the hips a little bit, but allows for more quads, then it's totally worth it. So does this make stuff a little bit different at the hip? Yeah, but it probably allows for more at the quad.
And you know, that's something that, like, you know, with a younger self, my younger self, you know, you're told, and I don't remember where you're told.
Yeah, yeah.
But, you know, closer stance is going to work more sweep.
Yeah.
You know, wider stance is going to work more teardrop if you're doing the lower setting on, or
Yeah.
feet lower on the platform. But
Yeah.
like you said, honestly, this I could probably feel more in my sweep because I'm able to get more distance down, more stretch on it. So, you know, it's a lot of trial and error. And like you said, I'm glad we're switching up and trying something new.
Sweet. That's really good. Come on. Nice.
Hello.
Is this your sister?
All right. Here she is, Miss Millie.
First bodybuilding show.
First road trip. We came over to Tampa, so she's gonna wake up here soon. But we are gonna head over to Hunter's. She's coming. Roscoe's coming. Whole crew is coming to go check it out. So she's gonna be the talk of the town, I'm sure. But I'm just glad that she's here, and it's been fabulous. And she
She's been
was
good.
11 pounds today, a whole
Yeah.
11 pounds, and she is 24 inches long. So she's like
Too long.
99 percentile in height and like 50
95 percentile height.
and 50th in weight. But we're gonna work on that because we're gonna keep pumping protein shakes at her. So.
How many meals a day?
Oh, more than me. She's probably like 10 bottles, 10 3-ounces a day, right?
Well,
and some boob, and a little bit of boob. But this is our pride and joy, and she's just the sweetest little girl. And she's pooped today. It was a long trip for her, so we gotta wake her up while we go over there and hang out. So you're coming with us. We're gonna check on Hunter, make sure he's looking good for Tampa. Might have to tweak some things to make sure he wins tomorrow, or I guess it's Saturday in 2 days. But no, it's gonna be fun. Let's go check them out and keep going on our trip. See.
The thing. No, I know you million text. What's her full name? The pop art on the walls. People with me. Brooklyn, Lynn, parents, Jordan, Brett, Lana the baby, Roscoe.
Out of your back. So legs were awesome, and you got wide. But this is something I've been messing with a little bit too. And don't worry about so much getting wide. Bring these back a little bit, and just a little bit more detail. Now chest up. There, I like that a lot more. You start seeing more of this right here. Because what you're doing is you're just trying to get
Get wide.
get wide, but then lose it all. Get wide, and then just crunch it back just a little bit. Okay.